Is an India Today Global exclusive. We are going to go and report from the ground on the situation that is right now in Bangladesh. But the unrest continues. Sheikh Hasina was ousted from Bangladesh. There is a new administration, the interim government under Professor Muhammad Yunus, a Nobel laureate himself. And while that has happened, the demand to have anybody who's connected to the Awami League be out of office continues. Now we're looking at visuals that are coming in, protests that are coming in from various quarters. There is also an effort to rebuild and bring in normalcy in the country. But what we have seen is the protests outside the Supreme Court, where there was a demand for the resignation of the Chief Justice, and that also has happened. So all the top echelons of the government will be seeing a massive change. I also spoke with the BNP General Secretary. The interview is up on India Today Global. There are a few very important things he said. One is that he wants democracy to return to Bangladesh. Now, this is coming from Bangladesh Nationalist Party. And the Bangladesh Nationalist Party has been looking at what Awami League and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been doing, a good friend and partner of India. But in the recent past few years, there has been a problem with how she managed her government. There has been a problem with how she conducted herself, and that certainly led to a mass unrest. But that does not take away from what is happening on the ground today. My colleague Ashutosh Mishra has been in Dhaka and has been reporting about the uncertainty that people in Bangladesh face, particularly the minorities. While the BNP and General Secretary Alamgir Saab said that there is no targeting of the Hindus on the ground. We have Ashutosh reporting on the fears and the apprehension that we see from the Hindu community. Ashutosh, thank you so much for joining us here from Dhaka. I hope you're safe. You were reporting all day. So give us a sense of the situation on the ground. There is an effort, especially by the students, to bring in normalcy and for peace to prevail, but also a massive effort by the Hindus to show strength on being safe in their own country.
Well, Geeta, the first thing is that, while the world is being in denial that there have been atrocities on the Hindus in Bangladesh, had it been the case, I wouldn't have seen thousands of Hindus marching in the capital city, Dhaka. Yes, I'm not talking about 10, 50, 100, 200, 500. Thousands of the Hindus from different areas, they all the way reached to Dhaka. Jai Shri Ram, safety for Hindus, security for Hindus, justice for Hindus. We are the Bangladeshi national. Of course, they are the Bangladeshi national. This is our land. And all these slogans with thousands of these Hindus who all the way came to Dhaka. You cannot deny the fact that there have been those atrocities. In fact, if you heard Dr. Yunus also, admitting the fact that there have been those instances. This morning, right after arriving in Dhaka, I spoke to several students. I'll come to the later that how exactly the things are unfolding in Bangladesh. They even admitted, yes, there have been such instances, but now they say there is another version which is coming from the protesters, that it was perhaps the Awami League workers who perhaps wanted to give a bad name to this entire movement or revolution, whatever they call it. When it was against the Sheikh Hasina government. So perhaps they say it was only to give a bad name and paint in a bad light about this protest, and that's exactly how this atrocity started. So yes, there have been such cases, but yes, I could also say that for at least last 24 to 36 hours, things are gradually coming to normalcy. Now let me also tell you, the moment I landed to Dhaka, what I saw. Stepping out of the airport, I could not see the usual traffic of Dhaka as it used to be. There is, of course, some reduction. We do not see a tourist or an outsider footfall, only the routine workers. Number of buses on the streets are lesser. And most surprisingly, can you ever imagine a country without policemen? Yes, Bangladesh at this moment is the only country perhaps where there is no virtually presence of the policemen on the street. All the police stations are deserted. All these policemen, no one present on the road, be it the traffic police or the law and order forces. No one is virtually being seen. I couldn't find anyone. So how the traffic is being managed? These are the volunteers of the Bangladesh Scouts. They are the BNCC, as in India we have the National Cadet Corps. Here they have the Bangladesh National Cadet Corps. And then there are the river forces and all other the volunteers, school, college, university going students, girls, boys, everyone on the road, and voluntarily they are managing the traffic situation, which is extraordinary and perhaps never seen somewhere. Though I remember 2 years back there was a similar protest against the regime in Sri Lanka, where also the students, there have been literally chaos all over, and end of the day, they streamlined the things, protest managing by their own. But here the situation is way different. In absence of the police personnel, all you have the army, the armored vehicle deployed everywhere. So that's also give a sense of concern that is it going to be the future? If can you imagine the protesters barging inside the Supreme Court, and then Chief Justice of the nation is forced to resign. So amidst of all that crisis, now they're also saying, but I visited ISKCON temple here this afternoon. So there's a concern these leaders from the different groups are receiving SOS calls, and they have been receiving calls. Though the situation, yes, indeed coming to normalcy, but there have been severe situation. In fact, in Meherpur area, which is towards the border areas of Bihar and West Bengal, there are still, what I heard, the Hindu families who were displaced are living in a temple, and that was exactly area where the the rented ISKCON temple, which was made arrangements at some place, was burned down. In fact, tomorrow I'll be visiting to Chittagong and all other areas. Still, there are massive protests are unfolding. So clearly, the concern is there is no law and order presence. Army is virtually guarding, but they have decided they will not open fire. The protests continue to happen. The youth are on the street, no college, no school functioning, and literally the establishment, everything is open, is functioning. But clearly, I can read out an apprehension that is it going to be the future of Bangladesh? Because ultimately, you have an interim government. Unless you have a full-fledged functioning government with all commands on everything, clearly what you see happening with the Bangladesh is raising an alarm.
It certainly is. And while you're saying, you make a very interesting point, Ashu. You're saying that we call him Ashu. So Ashutosh, the fact that you said that the initial instances of violence against Hindus could also be from the Awami League to portray BNP in bad light. That certainly can be the case, but we are also seeing purge of Awami League leaders, that they're being pulled out, that there are instances of them having been killed, and that's certainly something that the Alam himself said, yes, there have been instances of Awami League. So there are two things to it. One is it's not just BNP. Jamaat is on the streets. So we have Jamaat as well, who are, and we're not talking about Dhaka, especially in places outside of Dhaka and the remote areas, that Jamaat are in the streets, and it is going to be a difficult time for the minorities. Having said that, how fearful are those who supported Awami League or leaders of the Awami?
So, at large, Geeta, here the Hindu minority groups are believed to be a core supporter of Sheikh Hasina's Awami League. Over the years, they have been voted, those who are the
Absolutely.
Bangladeshi Hindu residents, they have been voting for Sheikh Hasina. And of course, the reason is the stable government and everything that she has been seen as a even sympathizer for the minorities towards. And we know the cordial relationship the India and Bangladesh always share. So somehow there was always a concern for the Hindus. As far as Jamaat is concerned, we all know there's a banned organization. There is no virtually even an office that exists. But the people, different frontal beings, the Chhatra Shibir Jamaat, the Student Union, or Jamaat Islami, they have different fronts operating, totally undercover, without any office, without any designation, without any position. And few of them who are believed to be the extremely extremist, yes, they are, you rightly said, certain policemen. For example, I spoke to the student, they say, if the policemen come, they'll face us. Because they fired upon us during the protest when there was a brutal use of power of the police forces. We have seen the special forces policemen landing in a university on a chopper, and then the policemen randomly, brushing out everyone using bullets. So on that case, there is anger against the policemen. And the reason being is that because the senior officials of the police were following a blind order from the ruling regime. And that's exactly when the army had to ask police to surrender, to just back off, we will take care of it. So all these police personnel were disappeared. close officials who are believed to be from the police personnel who are very close to the Awami League leaders. We have seen the house of the Home Minister burned. One of the ministers were literally detained from the airport. So clearly on that term, there is also apprehension that possibly few of these Hindus who were targeted are also the close to the Awami League or supporter or the sympathizer of the Awami League. In certain pockets, even on that line, there have been violence. But is that the only position? Because we have seen even the Muslims were also attacked, even the police stations, ports, certain commercial establishments, everything were burned down. So on that religion, the extremists targeted the minorities Hindus. There were two things. One, of course, the extremism that is spreading in Bangladesh, and they have been being targeted over the years. Of course, that have been a very such incidents have been very minute in number. But this time we see the massive escalation. But also because they believe that the majority of these Hindus have been Awami League supporters, and that was also one of the factors why this these Hindus were targeted in the remote areas of Bangladesh. Geeta.
Well, also there's let's zoom out a little. The problem over here has been Sheikh Hasina and how she conducted herself, the massive unrest. The quota issue was only an issue that became a political point upon which we saw BNP and Jamaat Islami really mobilize themselves. But let's make the distinction. The BNP, and when I was speaking to the General Secretary himself, said that they want democracy, that they want equality, inclusive politics. They do not want to hurt the minorities. And where is this coming from? They do not even want bad relations with India. So where is all this coming from? All this certainly is coming from the fact that there was a massive America support to the BNP and to ousting of Sheikh Hasina. Now, if you turn around and if the BNP turns around and becomes the party of erstwhile politics, it will not be able to sustain itself and look the West in the eye. So the West is watching. The West wants a different kind of a government and structure in place in Dhaka. And BNP is not going to move quite far away from what the world really wants of the change that Bangladesh really demanded. But how is it really going to impact the situation right now? How is it really going to impact business, trading, the economy? Something that Hasina actually, to her credit, did well when it comes to Bangladesh. I'm being joined by Sidban Banik, who is with Sidban Banik. Sidban Banik is a businessman. He is a CEO Star Trading who joins us from Dhaka. And we will try to connect with him. I do not know whether if he's still on line or not, but so we don't have him right now. We'll try asking him to join in again. So Ashutosh, back to you. We'll try connecting with Sudeb because he's not here with us right now. The fact that Sheikh Hasina did well for the economy, and with this, with the whole trouble that we see right now, there will certainly be a phase where every country that was invested in Bangladesh, particularly India, is going to look at whether their investments are secure. How much do you think is the economy going to be impacted? We did see massive looting of all those, again, stores that were owned by supporters or Awami League leaders themselves. Is that going to change in time to come?
Well, Geeta, business economy, only thrives when there's a stability in any nation. And given the current circumstances, this stability looks very difficult because you have an interim government. And then the role of the interim government is only to sustain this country and hold another elections. But for now, all I see the who holds power, whether it is going to be Dr. Yunus, certainly him, but there are a lot of people list that kind of a shadow cabinet that he'll be running. Who will hold the real power? Because I do not see any such. In fact, my sources are telling that this interim government will start functioning only from tomorrow. Now, having India as a closest neighbor and one of the biggest ally, Bangladesh, no matter who comes in the power, regardless of who's the leader, Bangladesh and India, strategically, they will always be a partner. With regards to, if you remember, the day Sheikh Hasina left Bangladesh, her son was speaking to India today, and when he said that we have always maintained close relationship not only with India but also China. So clearly on that factor, the Bangladesh would always want a greater relationship with both India and China with regards to not only trading but also the strategic partnership. And that's all about the diplomacy. Clearly on that terms with new regime, if there is influence, the only fear that at the moment is whether it is the BNP or the opposition parties who eventually in the election they literally decided to boycott the election. But if they fight and supposedly if the opposition parties, umbrella of the opposition parties forming a government, what will be the policy? Is it going to be China first? Is it going to be India first? Whether there will be influence of the Jamaat Islami or these kind of radical organizations, so that remains a major concern. And perhaps what I believe that all the security agencies from the South Asian countries are very much active and keeping a very close eye on the next step that Bangladesh takes. But for now, who will take the call, who will take the shot, then what should be the priority? As far as you said about the business and the trading concern, the routine is everything quite underway. But if I give you one example, the hotels like these, if there are no businessmen, no tourists, no one happening, you can eventually anticipate that where the future of this business or the scaling. Bangladesh remains one of the key exporter of the textile. So everything will
Absolutely.
jeopardize if they do not have a good relationship with China, India, or other European nations. So on that terms, what I believe, since the diplomacy and diplomatic relationship with neighbors will be a key factor for Bangladesh, but at the moment, who will take the decision? Who comes in the power and which authority, which power are going to influence that particular government only will be a deciding factor where Bangladesh will be heading to.
Well, that's a very, very important point you make, Ashu. But the fact is that right now the situation is very, very difficult, even at the border. Sheikh Hasina is being hosted by New Delhi. It has to be a temporary arrangement. It cannot be a permanent one. It will be untenable for India. Alamgir Saab in the interview also said that she has to be tried and that India will have to think before actually giving that asylum to Sheikh Hasina. So these are very important points that he made. We just wanted to understand from you how is this border situation going to be navigated by the Yunus administration?
Well, as far as this influx of Bangladeshi migrants towards India is concerned, we have seen, some months you see a few of them, then all of a sudden after 5th of August, we have seen literally influx headed towards. But are they the Bangladeshi Hindus or the Bangladeshi Muslims? So this infiltration of the Bangladeshis towards India is not a new phenomenon. But after this violence happened, the instability and the apprehensions and the concern about the future clearly we have seen reflecting upon the amount of influx we are seeing at the bordering areas. As far as policy is concerned, even Dr. Yunus, who's a Nobel literate and clearly having more humanitarian approach towards these things, this could not be a time perhaps to raise the such issues. For India, you have to maintain your border securities. You have to maintain there is no illegal immigration from those areas. But to control that requires a diplomatic talk. And for now, since India was the first country right after Dr. Yunus taken the charge as the guardian of this new government, new administration, perhaps also indicates that India willing to talk to its neighbor, regardless who's the leader, regardless which party comes in power, and also accepting the fact that since there is a change in regime, while we are hosting Sheikh Hasina and India has clearly said that she can stay as long as she wants, it's not an asylum, but with India on a humanitarian ground giving her time to decide the next course of action. So the influx, the immigration will remain a challenging task for Dr. Yunus with regards to, and certainly, even if you see the previous regime, including Sheikh Hasina, no one has successfully contained this immigration. So it has been happening, and the reason is unemployment, no source of income, extremely poverty, especially in the bordering areas. And since also having access to the riverine border areas, that clearly also makes it vulnerable, and often we see such situation. But this time, the kind of security arrangement India has made, probably we are have taken preventive steps, and that's why we still see the people on the bordering areas trying to infiltrate to the other side. But if with someone assuming that these are the Bangladeshi Hindus, no, I have been speaking to these people. They are adamant. Even if there have been attack, we will fight it out. We will not leave Bangladesh. So clearly, they remain. The bigger threat is also the Rohingya Muslims who came all the way to Bangladesh and now trying to infiltrate to India. So that remains challenging, Tom, and we'll have to see how India pursues this case with the new regime in Bangladesh. That you have to, to prevent the infiltration of the Rohingyas and also the illegal Muslims.
Well, again, we were speaking with the South Asia Deputy Director, Human Rights Watch, Meenakshi Ganguly Ashutosh, and she was raising concerns about the human rights situation on the ground in Bangladesh and across Bangladesh. So, are you looking at a lot of people, observers on the ground, NGOs, civil society representatives? Because they're also part of this interim government. So, are you looking at them, maybe looking at putting out a more responsible foot forward when it comes to at least not looking the way Bangladesh is looking right now? And it certainly is not looking good. So, for anybody who was saying that Sheikh Hasina was an autocrat, while that might be the case, this certainly is not an example of democracy or example of how Bangladesh should be portraying itself. Should it want that real change, because this is that moment for Bangladesh. Do you see that change really come about?
Well, then in that case, we have to understand how this all sudden perception against Sheikh Hasina changed. Even till the protest on, she was also one to invite the students' leader for a talk. But this failed, and all of become sudden. She started being called as a dictator, not because there were serious controversial leaders, or even from the armed forces, or the activists were detained and kept in some unknown locations for 6 to 7, 8 years. Not could be the only reason. But the day when the troops were landed through the helicopter on a university rooftop, when the police fired, when we have seen the vehicles literally roaming over the protesters, young students, those were perhaps most damaging pictures, and that damaged the entire reputation and the earning of Sheikh Hasina and the legacy that she has given to the Bangladesh. And there is always one moment, Geeta, in any country, in a situation when something happens which triggers literally a different perception towards against any leader or the regime. And that was perhaps a trigger point that suddenly boiled the anger of the people across the civil society. And then they started demanding resignation. And perhaps had not been there the march towards the PM residence, this situation would not have arrived, that they had to send Sheikh Hasina to a safer place. But having said that, what next? The civil society members I've been speaking to, who are virtually part of the government some way or other, they're not ready to own up a responsibility. Ultimately, it is Dr. Yunus and his shadow cabinet. But the final decision, and decision about what? This government, there is no such budget pending. There is no major policy decision that they need to take. This government's biggest challenge is to maintain the law and order. Tomorrow there is a first meeting, what I'm hearing. Tomorrow they have called the senior police officials of Bangladesh from different provinces and different districts. They are going to, Dr. Yunus is going to hold a talk that, look, there is a trust deficit. We need to attain that. And unless there is a police present on the ground, there will be literally a trust deficit, and that will lead to a chaos and anarchy in the state. So on that term, once it will go step by step. First, you have the police forces on back. Then you'll have the industries meeting that let the business continue. And when it comes to diplomacy, Dr. Yunus cannot be the factor who will take the shot on behalf of the entire nation. What I'm hearing, there's a plan to conduct an election within 3 months, and then the all party meetings are already happening. These political leaders, opposition, they're already gearing up. In fact, where I'm staying, just barely few meters, there is a BNP headquarters. So since morning to evening, I can only see hundreds of these supporters are gathering, and that gives some, anticipation that this energy is only because they are preparing for an election. Once there is a new government form, only we would see whether the government is influenced by the power like Pakistan or China, or the radical groups like Jamaat Islami, or they will have a liberal approach towards the neighbor, as we Bangladesh have had with India, China, or the other neighboring countries. Geeta.
Okay. So we do know that Professor Yunus has a major challenge, and like Ashutosh just said, that challenge has to do with how to immediate challenges, how to contain the law and order situation that now exists across Bangladesh. Ashutosh will be traveling, like he said, to Chittagong, and but let's just listen into what Professor Yunus had to say after he landed from Paris in Dhaka, and or is it at the Paris airport? Not too sure, but let's just listen into what he had to say on how he views what should be or become of Bangladesh.
It's ourselves to get out of the trouble that we're in. Well, I'll go and talk to them. I'm just fresh in this whole area. Thank you.
Okay, that was a very brief one. He said that he'll go and talk to all stakeholders, which is what he's doing right now, Ashutosh. He is actually talking to all stakeholders. This is not a time to gloat. Although yes, there has been a lot of gloating. Not a time to gloat for people who are now at the helm of affairs. It's a time to be humble. It's a time to really look at reconstructing and rebuilding what they think is a fractured democracy. If you look at the composition of the cabinet, Ashutosh, do you think Bangladesh and this interim government has has that mettle to really not just bring the situation under control, but also conduct elections in the 3 to 4 months that you say?
But conducting elections could be possible because remember, Bangladesh, all of a sudden the situation is changed. It is not only Dr. Yunus in play. He has the major support of the army as well. And to maintain the trust with the people, the army has decided they will not open fire regardless of wherever the protest is happening, including one. There was a protest at the massive at the Supreme Court when the Chief Justice of Bangladesh decided to step down. And eventually the army was called in to protect the periphery and the premises of the Supreme Court. So what's Dr. Yunus, someone who's really soft-spoken. This morning, in fact, he went to offer tribute to one of the student who was killed during this protest and firing by the police forces. So on that, he's maintaining it. There are regular meetings happening. He's in touch with the cabinet members, the parties, the civil society groups, and the students group. Because largely, the biggest challenge could be not just only conducting elections. The youth, the energy of the youth who literally carried out so-called their revolution, this massive protest that led to end up literally a regime, legacy of Sheikh Hasina,
Right.
that could be also one unguided missile. So if you are not taking them on board, for example, every traffic light, every junction you see, these young boys with bat and danda latte, they are managing the traffic and they do not know how it actually works. On a middle, you suddenly see something have been put out to divide the road. That's not exactly how the traffic police work. So clearly on that, through day out, these are the very logistical issues that I'm saying about, and could fees that this could boil anger in this extreme humid temperature all throughout the day and night. These young boys are on the road. They're not going to college, university. Tomorrow they have to go and attend their classes in the university and the college. Then who will take
So the
the charge?
colleges are open. The schools and colleges are open.
School colleges are open, so the younger boys for class 8, 9, 10, they are going. But from class 10, class 11, class 12, and the universities, so they're not going. They all are on the road. They are all on the road managing traffic for the country. That I see one thing, the affection for their country. Everyone, wherever they put out a paint, poster, banner, they were all removing out, giving it a nice color, decorating all this area. So that give them looks like something they have really won a battle against some power. But at the same time, this could be also unguided missile if this go on for really long, because ultimately there are authorities who are empowered and who are supposed to take this call about law and order, about local issues. So these are the very minute issues that Dr. Yunus would face in the coming days when the younger boys further. And remember, Sheikh Hasina touted about not only just spontaneous reaction, the rate of unemployment, the growing, the poverty, and the gap between the higher income and the lowest income. So that becomes also a major phenomena. That will also reflect on Dr. Yunus, the governing council, so-called cabinet meeting. But can he take such major call with regards to the policy decision? Because after all, he's a caretaker interim government. So his priority will be to conduct an election. Once the election is completed, and since he has the support of army, doesn't look very difficult that this election. But to survive 3 months, given the current circumstances, it looks very challenging for Bangladesh.
Ashutosh, we will see how this entire thing pans out. I'm going to come back to you because it's not just about rejection of Sheikh Hasina. Has Bangladesh rejected Sheikh Mujibur Rahman? That's the big question. But I'll come back to you. I have Sudeb Banik, who has joined me now from Dhaka, a businessman himself. Sudeb, thank you so much for joining us. Firstly, are you safe? Is your family safe? Are you concerned about security of your family, of yourself? What's the situation for you and all those from your business community?
Uh, the first time, thank you very much. I joined it with you. Uh, in this situation right now, uh, in Dhaka is very good, but outside of Dhaka, so many problem in our Hindu community. So many peoples are facing problem about uh,
Right.
hello.
Yes, Sudeb, go ahead. I can hear you.
Yeah, so many facing problems, so many peoples like that, and the temple or temple not secure, and others peoples they wanted to going and India, and they want to try inside of India border side, and our Hindu community right now, 2 days from 2 days in the Shabak, they are balanced for Hindu. Yeah,
Right. Go ahead, Sudeb. We can hear that there are concerns with regards to uh, when it comes to business and the trading community. Do you think that things will normalize for business to continue in some time, or are you seeing business hit very badly?
actually, right now our police are not working in our country. When I think I hope when our police will work, then it's coming normal
Right.
uh, shortly.
Right. And in terms of safety, do you think the minority community, particularly Hindus, are safe right now in Bangladesh, or are there concerns?
Yeah, in at this moment they are not uh, safe at this moment outside from Dhaka. They are facing
Mhm.
so many problem, uh, so many uh, you know,
Issues.
yeah.
Do you think many of the minorities would actually want to go to India? Because we are seeing a lot of them at the border, whether they are Hindus or supporters of Awami League, but there are many people at the border. Do you think that that is something that is going to happen or that
No,
they want to do?
no, they are not only Army League, man. They are not supporting all our Army League. They are
Okay.
they are Hindu, but they actually uh, hey, so many.
Go ahead, Sudeep. Go ahead.
The Hindus are not safe. In some places, temple was broken by terrorists, and Hindus are attacked by uh, others. And also, their shops are broken and uh, robbed by them. So
Okay.
Hindu community feel unsafe in this time. They are living with fear. They are also treated.
Okay. No, but I was asking about the border situation. Do you think they would want to leave for India? Do you think they're requesting to enter India because India right now is securing its borders, does not want the influx of Bangladeshis It can become a security situation. But a lot of them want to leave Bangladesh. You think that is a situation that is going to continue? Is that something that you're seeing too?
Sorry.
That Hindus want to leave for India, that they want to go to India?
Yeah, there are so many peoples are waiting to go to India because they are thinking they are not safe in our country.
And do you think that under Professor Muhammad Yunus that the situation can come under control and Hindus will be safe?
It's to time to say. I will say. I don't know at this moment. I don't any concern about this.
Okay, so you don't really know what is really going to happen, but what's your hope? Do you think that the BNP, if there are elections and if BNP comes to power, that things will become normal again, or do you think that the Awami League still has a support base in Bangladesh? That there are still voters who are going to go out and maybe vote for Awami League?
Now maybe it will be okay in coming to national party. They are they actually last time when they came to 1991, then that will be fine that time. But 2001 sometimes when they come, then sometimes they our minority was problem. But this time also so many people this time I am not seen this type of uh, violence and this type of minorities facing problem, I think so.
Sudeb Banik, thank you so much for joining me here on India Today Global. We'll try connecting with you every now and again because the situation in Dhaka is quite dire. But you've given us a sense of the fears, the problems that the minorities are facing and could face in Bangladesh. So thank you so much for joining us and expressing yourself and your fears. Ashutosh, if I could come back to you, this is what
Thank
Sudeb had saying. Thank you, Sudeb. This is what Sudeb is saying, and this certainly is going to be a large factor. Hindus are certainly feeling unsafe. I've been speaking to a few myself, and they're not safe in Bangladesh. They are concerned about their safety and security. Having said that, like I said, this what happened in Bangladesh in the past few days and a week or so is a rejection of Sheikh Hasina and Sheikh Hasina's Awami League. But when you see Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's statue being brought down and vandalized and his home being burnt down, the memorial being burnt down, when you see all of that, has Bangladesh really rejected the founding father itself? Because we do know that the BNP never really considered him the father of the nation. But the founding father, nonetheless, is there a complete rejection of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman as well?
But technically, Geeta, if you see, it was not entire youth of Bangladeshi that they what they did with the statue of Sheikh
A
Mujibur
surprise
Rahman.
visit to
It
this
was
country.
only few of them, a handful of these people, and who were basically disowned
Now
the
recognized as the leader of Bangladesh after his
Jamaat.
9-month
If I could
imprisonment
just
by the
ask
West
you,
Pakistan
this
government, he
was
said
your
that he was eager for
standard
Bangladesh to be regarded as a potential member of the
audio.
Commonwealth.
Can you just ask them to mute the audio before we start
The Sheikh's strength lies in his popularity.
Yeah, so that's Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, a very popular figure, founding father of Bangladesh. Cooperated with India. India cooperated with him. In fact, it's the other way around. And then we saw the formation. So please go ahead. What were you saying about the rejection
So
part?
as I said, at large, I still don't see what that was reflected in action of few handful of those, the elements what they did with the statue of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. It is not the sentiment of all of these Bangladeshis. Now remember, there is a trigger point. In that quota, the biggest allegation on Sheikh Hasina was that because you want to increase this quota to accommodate next generation of the Awami League leaders, because at large, right after the independence of Bangladesh, after the 71, largely it was the Awami League, And then it was the next generation, then to the next generation. So the biggest allegation on Sheikh Hasina is that all the government posts and these jobs, you're going to give them only to your party leaders and their grandsons. That was a massive trigger point against Sheikh Hasina. And when caught in the crossfire was the entire legacy of Sheikh Hasina, the Awami League, and of course Mujibur. So clearly on that, what we have seen that reflected, and that was only, in fact, since this morning I have been speaking to different people. There is anger against Awami League, all because of Sheikh Hasina, but not a single person that I found who could, use even any disrespect word towards the founding father of Bangladesh. So clearly doesn't look like the entire nation was against him. It was a spontaneous reaction, but it was only few handful of the antisocial elements who did this act to him. And clearly, once the situation comes to normalcy and in a political discourse in a country of a democracy, you will gradually see quite rejection of Sheikh Hasina. Not necessarily has to be the rejection of the founding father of Bangladesh.
Okay. Ashutosh, just hold on. There's some news also coming in. This is the Commonwealth Journalists Association. They have now written to the interim leader, Dr. Muhammad Yunus. And I'll just read out a few lines from the letter because it is very important. It strongly urges the letter says the Commonwealth Journalists Association strongly urges you to take swift actions to ensure the physical safety and secure working environment for journalists and media outlets in Bangladesh, who in recent days have experienced serious physical attacks and acts of intimidation. A very serious question, Ashutosh. I'll come to you for that, but let me just read a few more and then we'll come to a discussion on that. A free media which is protected by law against acts of violence and intimidation is essential for a healthy democracy. Now they've talked about the offices that have been attacked, which include Ekator TV, Samoy TV, ATN News, ATN Bangla, My TV, Asian TV, Bijoy TV, and Gan Bangla. So a lot of attacks. And Shamal Datta, the Commonwealth Journalists Association's Vice President and General Secretary of the Bangladesh National Press Club, was also targeted in these attacks. The appeal talks about prompt and effective steps, Ashutosh. That's news just coming in. Commonwealth Journalists Association expressing concern over attacks on media. The whole idea of free press and the fact that Sheikh Hasina curtailed that for some time now, and that there was targeting of journalists during her tenure. And now we're looking at the same happening on the other side. It doesn't seem right when you have fought for democracy and free press and end up then persecuting those who you think were Awami League supporters, even if they were journalists.
So, again, there is another aspect of this. Here in Bangladesh, a few media organizations are eventually called by the people that they have been very close to the Sheikh Hasina regime and perhaps literally taking a diktat from her. So on that terms, if you see, clearly, this has reflected in the reactions of the people on those particular individuals. Yes, the present situation for journalists in Bangladesh is not very good. Rather, I would say it's not even hostile as well. We have been reporting since day long, and since Sheikh Hasina is now in Ghaziabad in India, so clearly that also reflects in their statements, in the reactions, why India is sheltering Sheikh Hasina, why the Prime Minister Modi is not sending Sheikh Hasina back. She need to be hanged till death. She need to be sent back to Dhaka. Why Modi is protecting Sheikh Hasina. And eventually, because we are only here to cover the situation, bring the realities to the world for our audience, and give a right perspective without any biasness, with the full fairness that what is happening on the ground. But caught in the crossfire are always the journalists. You consider any such situation whenever there's a conflict, political conflict or such conflict, caught in the crossfire are always the journalists. So we feast that kind of sentiment here, which is not very cordial for the media. However, it's not even hostile as well. But in certain areas, yes, there have been attacks on the journalists. They were targeted by the mob, by these protesters. They could be from any group. Now, you cannot claim whether they are the Awami League, whether they are the Jamaat, whether they are the BNP. But yes, there were the elements who were annoyed and angry for whatever reason they could make out. But yes, the journalists were targeted. And since day long, we have been working. Often it was cordial, sometimes it was rude, sometimes it was a different reaction. And then that's how a journalist, because it's our duty to bring the reality, bring the real picture, talk to every side, bring both sides of the coin. So this looks like that perhaps journalists are feeling the sentiment that this could escalate further and could be harmful for the journalists. So perhaps what it looks like the letter has been written to Dr. Yunus.
Well, Ashu, the fact that you're there, you'll be reporting for us for in the coming days. The situation does not seem to be brought to normalcy anytime soon. But that's the endeavor. That's what Dr. Yunus had said. That his first and foremost challenge is going to be law and order situation, but also he wants a bigger, brighter future. In an interview to me, he also, when I said that, well, do you have political ambitions? Because at one point in time, he did float a political party, and then things went bad, things went south, so he disbanded the party. So does he have political ambitions? He categorically said he does not. So this is an interim government. It's an interim arrangement. A lot of people are thinking that this could be a prolonged arrangement. But like you're saying, Ashu, this could very well be an arrangement which is going to be short-lived, only because everybody seeks early elections, which is what BNP's demand also is. So we'll have to wait and see how that really turns out, because yes, Tariq Rahman Zia, Khalida Zia's son, he is in London. He will soon be in Dhaka. And what they will seek is an early election, because this is the moment for them to ride and mobilize. Although he does come with an India Out campaign, that was what they carried forward during the elections. When you're in power, things change. It's a near neighbor, a very near neighbor, and a very important one at that. And then the messaging already has begun that they want to have good relations with India, but also a warning that came from Alamgir Saab when he said that India should think before giving asylum to Sheikh Hasina. That's a telling message. On that note, Ashutosh, thank you so much for joining me here on India Today Global. Your ground reports will be available on India Today Global. So for our viewers, please go online, watch his reports. They're very important. They're telling on what's happening in Bangladesh. He'll be sending his dispatches on a daily basis. Please log on to our channel and watch his dispatches. A very important one for anybody who thinks there are stakes involved of India in the regional security that is connected to Bangladesh. So Ashutosh, we'll keep coming back to you. And please do keep sending us your dispatches on the situation on the ground. Thank you so much for now. And thank you, viewers, for watching India Today Global.